Some of the synthier stuff, this bass sound right here, kind of like a growly saw sound. I've been using that literally for so long that I literally am not allowed to use it anymore. Like I need to just like you know how people like put like a lock on their cookie jar so they don't like eat the cookies or whatever? Like this is that. I need to just like put this in a folder, this preset, and just like delete it or put it somewhere else so I don't use it ever again. But it's just so good and I keep going back to it. It's just an amazing layering piece. You know, my sound in its nature is like really layered. A lot of people will say that's not good because if you can make a song sound really big with less layers and less sounds, it is better. I agree. I guess I just layer a lot. I just like to do that, and it just that's just what resonates with me, I guess. But you can see just this bass sound alone is like, it's like a couple different layers. And then there's the sub layer, which is kind of like the balls. So making bass is I think a 3-layer process. I think a lot of people are able to find good bass sounds with just 1 layer, but like, I don't know, I like making it more personal and just give it that personal touch. So I do 3 layers, always a good sub. Like for this one, I think this is just ES2, so this is like a Logic plugin, which is a basic sine wave. I don't think you need to go too crazy on sub bass. I think a good solid sine wave is perfectly fine. I think you can get that in any synthesizer, really silent or anything like that. This sound is massive, I guess. Super old, so I don't remember. I just have the preset. And then this is massive as well, for sure. What makes this sound really pop is a Waves plugin called Maserati. And when you turn it off, I mean, it just sounds muddier to me, but it sounds a little crispier with that. And then when you start to layer the elements, it like makes a lot more sense. But when I came up with that, using Maserati on that, I thought I was a genius. I wasn't, but it's just, I thought I was mad cool because no one had done that. And this is definitely like not a plugin that you would use on a synth bass like that. So take some risks, use some weird stuff on stuff, and then you'll get some cool things that you'll use 5 years later, like I'm doing now. Some of the chord elements, I think it's just silent. So I use silent a lot for my chord stuff. It's one of the main layers, but I like to kind of mix in like weird layers as well, and that's what gives it the really special characteristics. I don't know if that's the case in this project, but you can hear in some of the layers. So like, it's cool to have layers that are kind of straight and then have some like wobbly layers. Like, I think when you layer those two, just gives it like just a special vibe. I don't know. It's maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I like it. I don't know. It sounds right. And then this is a really key thing for me. So these pianos, I swear I've been using them for so many years, and I just can't get away from the Logic built-in pianos. I get probably like 3 messages a week about what piano sounds I've used, and I'm like, it's not really that special. It's just the Logic ones. But as you can see here, there's a lot of plugins on them, and the most important plugin on this particular sound is the compressor. Compressing is so important. I could probably go an hour and a half talking about a compressor, but I'm telling you right now, like, it makes sounds. If you can compress correctly, like without it, it just really like slaps a lot harder. And like, I don't know, you can use it on almost anything. Like compressors just make everything good. But you just got to know how to do it. You can really easily overdo compressors. I hear songs sometimes where I'm just kind of like, man, that's just way too compressed. And it's a bummer. And it's like, don't go too hard on the compressors. That's all. It's once you figure out how to use it, the first thing you want to do is overuse it. But it's just like, there's a place in between, you know, crazy and nothing. And you should stay right around there, I think, with most things. talking about the leads, which is what I call the leads. Some people call it like the main riff or something like that. This is kind of bugging out though. There's something in there that's not working right. There's like a clicky. But this is a sound I've used a lot over the years. It's like a square kind of silent sound. I use a lot of silence, by the way. I just can't get away from it. I've been trying to use more serum and all this other stuff, but I just think silence sounds really good. I think it's hard to replace it, to be honest. But I don't actually like that layer. I'm probably going to change it. But so this is a really massively key thing for me. It's kind of the essence of a song I did called Something Better. It has a lot of guitars in it, and I wanted to do that because I knew Lady A was going to be on the record, and like, must be this layer that's, no. I don't know why it's clicking like that. That's not supposed to happen. But it's a guitar sound, and it's just like, it's from Trillion. I think Trillion has really good guitar sounds. It's actually a bass plugin, but you know, you can take a bass guitar and pitch it up into a higher octave, and then suddenly you have a guitar. So it's like there's a lot of really cool presets in here that are good in the higher octave. So I ended up using that always as a layer on my lead sounds. So I would play it, but this is like kind of clicking. Anyway, it's cool to layer real sounds because that is actually a real guitar sound. I think pretty sure the way Trillion works is that it's like a rompler, they call it. And so someone took the time to record like a bass guitar or something like that. And like in so many different ways. And now we can use it. And it's like, it's really cool to use real elements with synth elements. I think if you have a song that's just completely synth elements, it's going to be super one-dimensional and kind of boring. Mix in as much real stuff as you can. I'm sure a lot of you maybe even play guitar and stuff like that. Use it. It really works. I mean, some of the best artists have had so much success with a simple guitar riff that they just recorded. And it's like, I don't personally play guitar. Like, it's on my bucket list to learn guitar. But I'm always like feeling really good when I'm able to work with someone who can actually play guitar. I just did a song with Echo Smith, and it's actually a sister and two brothers. And one of the brothers plays guitar amazingly, and I was able to use a lot of his guitar sounds in the song. So that was kind of cool. And they're all real guitars. So it adds like a human element to your mix. It's super important. Some kind of additional stuff that sits underneath. Again, filling that box sort of thing. Like, this is like a weird vocal drone thing that you wouldn't hear in the mix. It's weird, but it works. And I can't make a song without it. I feel like something's missing when it's not there. So I guess find your own version of that. It could be a vocal thing. It could be like, you know, some sort of element that just like sits underneath but makes things sound bigger. They really add to the mix a lot. So there's another one. So this is kind of just like white noise and like kind of mids and just like different variations of white noise. It's a good way to release energy. So on a drop, like this is kind of like an exciting thing at the live shows, you know? It's kind of like that CO2 thing I was talking about. It's I honestly think that the reason that people have used it in dance music for so long is because it sounds like CO2. When CO2 goes off, it makes that sound. So it's some sort of release of energy, and it just lets everyone know, I guess, that the drop is here. The almighty drop. So that's the drop. Let's do some breakdown elements. I do wish this project was a little bit more complex, but it's kind of simple. Yeah. Good, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always the same process, really. It's just different sounds and different arrangements and stuff. But so, like, back to the whole chord thing, I always start with chords. Here's just some basic chords. And this is like probably very simple. I think this is Nexus, probably, yeah. So this is like a Nexus wide piano. And the way that I've processed it is some compression, of course, same as before. And then, just a lot of EQ and stuff like that. Can't really go wrong with this sort of stuff. It's just basic sounds that, as long as the melodies are really good, they're always going to sound good. And you should really focus on the MIDI and the melodies. Like, melodies are everything, and if you change notes, it'll change everything in your song. Like, just one note makes the world of difference. So that's why I spend a lot of the time making sure the melodies are right. So simple piano chords, it's usually how I start songs. Always these little ARP kind of things that can stay consistent throughout a song while other things are changing. I like having elements that sort of like stay the same throughout and just sort of kind of keep the song in check in a way. So like things will come in and go away, but these will stay until the drop. So that's kind of cool. I always liked that. Super simple. That's only 3 sounds. And this is just like a basic sine sub. Let's see. I don't think that's playing anything. Let's see. So this is kind of like a string drone kind of thing, where it's sort of like maybe a disco element. Like back in the day, like disco songs always had that really high string, tension string they call it, and it sort of like builds tension in a way, and it always sounds good over chords and stuff like that. So like this is a really important sound to me. I use this in a lot of like my breakdowns and stuff. This is a kind of like a detuned saw, silent again, what do you know? And it's just basically simple detuned saw with like multi-compression. So it's essentially, looks like it's boosting some of the lows and the mid-lows and stuff like that. And then has an auto filter on it, which gives it that sort of kind of cut-off sound that you can't really get with just EQ. It's sort of unique. I think that it's really good to just try random plugins on things, and once you have a good combination, like you could use that in many, many different songs. It's just a great element, so. Just pads. This one is Nexus. It's not that special, to be honest, but they're just good layers, and like, if I added a vocal on top of this, it would sound really big and really epic. Still waiting for a good vocal. Takes time, you got to find the really good one. So that's sort of the breakdowns and stuff like that. I don't think these are that interesting, but I'll show you anyway. These are sort of like riser effects. This sort of builds the energy before the drop, and it's incredibly important. You got to get these right. I've used these for a long time. So they're all kind of doing different stuff. This one's like a... But you put them together, and then they kind of all build the energy. Oh yeah, snares. Not that important. I think this is actually a splice loop. Use splice, by the way. Huge tip. Splice is amazing, and it's very like, I didn't have that when I started. I just had a lot of Vengeance samples and, just a lot of like Googling like Nicky Romero kick and all that stuff. And it's like all the newer producers these days have splice, and splice is just the best thing ever. Like, I can literally spend 10 hours just going through splice and just downloading samples. And it's just the best thing ever. Like, you can make whole songs with splice alone. And so, like this snare fill, like, I think that was straight up from Splice. Probably from the Cashmere pack. I don't know if some of you guys use that. But use Splice. It's amazing. There's nothing wrong with using Splice sounds. Everyone I know uses Splice sounds. So I don't want to, like, I'm not going to say any names, But there have been recent songs that have had whole like guitar loops or piano loops from Splice. They didn't change anything. And these are massive songs. So not going to say what song that is, but I've heard it and it's amazing. So you can do it too. This is kind of like sort of the Dead Mouse style stuff. I do it a lot, to be honest. So back to the notes, like it's really cool, in my opinion, when you're doing these style of chords to kind of like make notes kind of go crazy in a way. So like you can hear them kind of going crazy. Like honestly, I think that it's really cool to add really subtle elements to like certain parts of your song. I think that like maybe some people don't hear it, but the people that do hear those elements, like they feel it, bro. They feel it. So it's just key to really do some cool under the cuff stuff that maybe people will hear on like the 10th listen. Like Zed is really good at that. Like I'll hear stuff in his songs that I really didn't hear the first 10 times. And it's like, I just think that's really a good sign of a good producer. So what else is going on here? Simple chords. So like this would be an amazing part for like a great verse, you know, maybe like a female singer. I think with this kind of pitch in the song, like I would probably find a female just because the vocal tone would sound good over this sort of stuff. But, you know, it's never like, you can use a male, it's just like, I just think certain songs are good for a girl singer. So this would be one of those. Don't think there's anything really else to go over here, but let me just see some of these other sounds. These are just little effects, I guess. A lot of Cashmere Splice sounds, so use Cashmere Splice sounds. And that's about it. So there you go.